Hey everybody, back with another video. It's been a while. I haven't been making a lot of videos, so hopefully this will be a quick one. As anybody's watched some of my videos, you've probably seen a bunch of EEPROM programmer videos. I've done a bunch, not really reviews, but I've owned a bunch, and I've learned a ton, and I've tried to share that. But and I'm always trying to improve the program burner that I have and kind of continually upgrade if it's cost effective to do so. So I've done a review of these BK 843s, also known as Allmax Plus. Had two of these, sold one. It's this one over here. You can watch a video. I'll link to it up there somewhere. But I've had a couple of these. You can't really see it. It's right there. It's BK 843, also an Allmax Plus. Now, I've always had this BK 864. Actually, I'll stop. And BK 845, I think, is a Top Max, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I did a video on that too, which is really nice. So if you get a BK 845, it's pretty cool. It's very nice. Made by EE Tools, rebranded by BK Precision. I've had this BK 864, also known as a Beeprog Plus from Elnec, E-L-N-E-C. I think that's how, or Elnec, something like that. And this has been my programmer of choice for the last 4 years. Nothing has ever come close to beating it, except for an 865, which I think that's called, this is the Beeprog Plus. This is the JetProg, this 865. Which I also owned and got rid of, but it's just not that much better, so I just got rid of it than the 864, just a little bit better. However, just recently, I was able to pick up a BK 866B, also rebranded from Elnec, which is made in Slovakia. You can see it has a little cover for the dip switch there, setting there. And this is Elnec's Beeprog Plus. And it's better in a lot of different ways. One way is that it has an internal power supply. That's neither good nor bad necessarily, but it has an internal power supply there. But it has both a parallel port and a USB. And this is going to be one of the best USB programmers. Obviously, you can get like a TL 56 or 48, I think they call, or T48s or whatever, or I can't remember. I had the TL866. Those are fine, but these do bipolar proms, PALs, GALs, all the stuff that arcade guys need, or people in the arcade hobby, I should say. 48 pin, zero insert ZIF socket, which allows you to program all types of chips without different adapters. I've mentioned that before, which is really nice. Has an on-off switch, which I like better, because you can just leave it plugged in and just power it off right there. Also has an ESD grounding strap and wrist strap that you can connect to as well. Additionally, it has an in-system programming interface there on the front. So this device, this Beeprog Plus, was supported via software all the way to 2022. And that's the other reason why I like it better than the 864. Can program more chips, has longer support, but it still can do bipolar proms like Signetics, Tesla, AMD, and Texas Instruments and stuff. I think it's ones that have tungsten fuses and stuff like that. Because it's only a 1 amp power supply, it can't program really old like Harris and Intersil type of proms. The old ones you have to use a really old programmer. I'm not going to be able to think of the name right now, but they're really big with bigger power supplies because it takes more amps to blow the fuses and that kind of stuff. But this will do everything I need. PLS 153s, which are for pole position, which is why I was keeping my 843, but all the other proms and everything that I could do with 864s. It also has an adapter you can get to program 2708s, which is tri-voltage 1708s, I think, and some other tri-voltage type of chips and stuff. The only thing I noticed with this is it does look like my lever for my ZIF socket was bent, but it's not a big deal. I could probably bend it back. I don't know if that, I would say it wasn't on purpose, but the fact that the little plastic bumper here is right there, I mean, kind of, it seems like maybe it was bent on purpose. I don't know, from the factory almost. And even the little cover is bent. So I don't know if that was, I'm not going to mess with it because of that bumper is there. I think it might have been done on purpose for some reason. I'm not sure. I think that's enough of an intro. This is definitely going to be my go-to now. It's, you know, USB based, so therefore I can use a more recent computer. I'm sure it works with Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 11. I haven't tried that. I've only tried it on Windows 7, I think. And we'll program a chip here real quick and show the user interface, which isn't much different than the 864. But because this might be the first time somebody's watching a video of mine about programmers, I'll give you some additional input on what I really like about these Elnec programmers beyond the chip support. Is the user interface was supported for a very long time, and it can do everything you need from an arcade hobbyist standpoint. All right, so I have it plugged in, USB port right here on the back, as well as the power cable, and then we just turn it on right there. And watch the indicator lights, because this sequence, the red is busy, green is good, yellow is error, and the sequence is important to understand if it's doing its boot up self-test correctly. And then you can hear the USB come on, and it's plugged in. And you can also see this is a document I downloaded from Mouser on the data sheet, and it says 866B, and it has a picture of the Beeprog Plus. So okay, so hopefully this comes out okay on camera, and I'm talking behind the camera, but went to BK Precision's website. You can see it was discontinued in 2012, but the 866B is the same as the Elnec Beeprog Plus. And if you go to Elnec's website and go to, I'll just show you real quick. If you go to Products, Universal Programmers, you'll see what active ones they have, that they're selling. I don't recommend the Beeprog 2C or the 866C because it doesn't do B-proms, bipolar proms. But if you go to over on the left-hand side, there's a discontinued products, and then you can scroll down to Beeprog Plus. 2012 was the last date, but they supported the software for 10 years up to 2022. And the version of software, the last version of software that programmer supports is 3.76, and Elnec still lets you download it. So that's awesome. So I downloaded it, installed it. Obviously, once you plug it in and power it on, it downloads a USB driver or installs a USB driver to control it. And then it tells you what kind of computer I'm running this on. It is a rather old computer, but it's a Windows 7, says it's Beeprog Plus, establishes the connection, what the serial number of the programmer is, checks anything in the buffer, and we're good to go. So I will crop this, and hopefully I can keep everything in there. Because of my previous videos, I have this test diagnostic pod, if you will. So this you can put into the programmer, and we can run diagnostics on it to ensure that everything's working okay. So the diagnostic pod is in there, and with the software under programmer, we run self-test. It says it's going to run with the diagnostic pod in first. Please insert diagnostic pod, etc., etc. Make sure nothing's attached to the ISP connector, the in-system programmer. And now I'm getting a busy light. You can't see it. And some green. And and yellows flashing and stuff like that. And it says everything went well. So communication test, RAM test, EEPROM test, supplies, digital analog DAC test, and digital analog converter, pin driver, TTL tests, and the analog test. Now it says it's going to run a Diag without the pod in there. So okay. And everything tests fine, I think. Let's see. Boom. Everything tested great. Now it gives us an option to run either test again, but we won't. So we know the programmer's working correctly. If you go to device, we can select device. You know, an aspect of this that I've mentioned in previous videos is the ability to search on just anything. So like if I want to search on PLS 153, I just type it in and it tells me all the PLS 153s that are supported. And it's going to tell you just what's supported for this Beeprog Plus, which is what we're the programmer we're using. For instance, common, let's say 2708s, it says it needs an adapter module. So anything with the 2708 EEPROM tells you that it needs the 2708 module. If I do 2532s, all right, well that brings up a lot of stuff. So what I could do is TMS 2532. Hopefully this text isn't too small. And you can see there's the Texas Instrument. It is supported. I can select that. And then it'll bring up, you know, device info. Says that what software version supported, you know, what version of software of Elnec first started supporting this chip, and let's see when it was modified. So modified in software version 3.42. That's interesting. I wonder what they modified as far as programming these things. Package details, part number description kind of gives you different information. We can hit OK. We can do device operations. This is another part of the programming that I like about this software, is it will program the chip and it gives you the option of verifying it at different voltages. So it'll verify at plus 10%, which is 5.5 volts, and verify at minus 10%, which is 4.5 volts. That's a great way of catching, suspect EEPROMs. Sometimes in different voltage conditions, they won't read 100% correctly. So you have to take them out of the game and reburn them. I've talked about that in threads and stuff like that. So what else is kind of interesting? Insertion test. It'll test if there's pin continuity issues, or if you insert the device wrong. It'll prevent you. It'll alert you that you're about to do something bad. And that's pretty much it. It doesn't let you change how, what it's programming at, what its VPP programming voltage is. In this case, it's 25 volts. All right, I don't know how well this is going to turn out, but the other thing that came with my little package was this little chip remover here. Never seen one like this. It's made in Germany. It looks kind of fancy. And I also got a, what is this, PLCC32 adapter, which is kind of nice. So you can do PLCC32 chips. And it also came with, and this wasn't even part of the eBay auction, I don't think, a PLCC44 adapter as well. It's a nice little output there. I have some of these adapters. I don't know if they're specific to Elnec or not. I think they started doing that later on, but maybe not back in this day. But I have a whole bunch of adapters that are like that. I figured what I would do is I would just read a chip real quick. This is, I don't even know what this is. I just pulled this out. That's why I figured I'd read it. It's a, let's see if you can see it. 2716, TMM 2716. So we'll go to Programmer, Device, select Device, and we can just type in TMM 2716. It doesn't find it. Oh my gosh, what? This is something new. It's actually telling me TMM27. What? Maybe it's a T2 2716 or a TMM 323. Oh my gosh, yeah, it is a TM. Let me show you. TMM 323D. And that brings it up. It is actually a 2716 chip. So let's go ahead and select that. It was interesting how this software was actually trying to tell you, what else to search for to find it. We can hit device info, I think. Device options. Operation options. We're going to read and write plus or minus 5%, but we could change that if we want. Nope, doesn't look like we can. It's probably a rating of the chip. Probably doesn't go to 5.5 volts. Also see device info. 2048 bytes or 800 hex is how much capacity is. Tells you what programmers supported, at least by this software, still support it. Beeprog Plus, right? And package details, etc. Okay, let's read this thing. Alright, so it read. Let's check the buffer. View edit buffer. Definitely has data in it. Alright, let's save this thing. File, save. I'm going to save it to come on now. Let's go to users, admin, downloads, call it test. All right, let's open up our browser. We'll go to, what is that? Yeah, ROM ident, browse, go to our downloads folder, test, open, submit. All right, cool. It is a Galaxian GX1, Graphics 1 chip. So Galaxian GFX. That's interesting. It's also part of the Galaxian test ROM. I guess it's the same no matter what. GFX1. GFX1. Galaxian 1H, 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 1H. Alright, so that's Galaxian. Let's see what this thing is here. If I can even read it. I think it's a 2532. HN462532. Device. Select device. HN 46 25 32. And this one is not a G version. No adapter required, made by Hitachi. Select that. Let's read it. Just look at our buffer, see what it looks like. All right, just random stuff. Well, it's not random, obviously. Wondering if we can see anything in there in the ASCII breakdown of it. File, save, test 2. Boom. Go to our web browser. Let's go back, browse, test 2. This is a PacFast 6F. PacFast 6F. I need to label those two because I didn't know what they were. So that's just some examples. I don't know. Hopefully it comes out on video okay of how to read some ROMs. All right. So I'm hopefully trying to wrap this video up, but I was going back and trying to read my own advice that I'd given on the forums about device programmers. I said it must support 25 volt programming, 2716s and up as a minimum, tri-voltage and 2532 support as a bonus. Now, down below, let's say Steph, I think from Hobby ROMs, actually made a good point. Really, 2532s are a must for programming. So, because they're on Pac-Man boards and stuff like that. So, this does do 2532s, and again, it can do 2708s and 2704s, I think, or 2704s with a special adapter. Can do bipolar proms, and Steph said, which I think is a requirement, and Steph mentioned like the fact that the older ones pre-1978 had a different material, nickel chrome, which required a lot of amperage to burn, and that's why only the bigger, older data IOs are the ones that typically burn those, because they have bigger, beefier power supplies. And whereas the second generation used titanium tungsten fuses, which are Signetics, AMD, Tesla, TI, stuff like that. And 48-pin ZIF socket, which this has, which I like. Steph says you don't discount a 40-pin ZIF, but 48 obviously is better than 40. Support PALs and GALs, again with no adapters, that was my statement, and test TTL chips as well. So the software does test TTL chips. So if you go to device and you go IC test by vectors, you can open up your 74. I've demonstrated this before, and you can just put in your 7404 or whatever, and it will test it, looping it, as well as a single stepwise mode. Now, obviously, I don't have a TTL chip in there, but it's telling you whether it's programming the logic inputs and measuring the outputs from a high-low voltage standpoint. So I've done that before. Now, the proof of whether this thing, the one downside of this programmer is it only does have a 1 amp power supply built into it. And I'm going to show that in a second. But let's try to program an 82S PLS 153. So I have a PLS 153. We're going to select that. We get this error warning here saying the internal power supply of the Beeprog Plus, Beeprog 2 or 2C. Oh gosh, it went away for a second. Says it right down here. Might not be sufficient for programming of some versions of this bipolar PROM PLD. It will result in a communication error. Use an external power supply, and they sell an external power supply kit. So let's see if I can actually program the PLS ones that I have. I'm going to load pole position, JEDEC file. This one right here. I could do food fight as well, actually. Let's do food fight. Somebody might need this as they're building their food fight boards and stuff like that. So load up the Food Fight JED file. Open that up. All right. JEDEC file generated by TopMax. So when you load a JEDEC file, the checksums, if you just do a checksum over the whole amount, is going to be different based off of what device created the JEDEC file and what other information you put in the JEDEC file. All right, so I'm going to put in my chip. We're going to do a blank check. All right, blank checked it, and now let's program. Insertion test is enabled. Blank check before programming, that's disabled. We just did it manually. Verify after reading. Enable programming parameters. Array fuses. Okay. Uh-oh. We could have a problem. Communication error. Ah! Alright, that sucks. So let's go look at the power supply for this thing. Alright, this is going to be a longer video. So I'll take it apart real quick. 4 screws there. I mean 2 screws, 4 altogether. 2 screws on the front and back. I will pause and come right back when I get the lid off. Alright, so I got it, I think, almost off here. Has a ground strap right here. We can just remove that. Yeah, and it's pretty basic, and which is really nice, is it's just a switching power supply. So AC power in, has a little bracket to hold it down, and then it comes in to this, let's see, power comes into the switch, then out from the switch into that, you can hopefully see it down there, into the board. So it's really just, I believe, 15 volts. 15 volts and probably 1 amp power supply is what I'm expecting. If you go on Elnec, whatever website, they have power supplies. Let's see if I can get this out of there. Might have to disconnect this here. Come on. Get up there. There we go. It's a little tough, it's a little tight fit. But here is the actual power supply, and I can't really see it. 1 amp. Yeah, it's 15 volt, 1 amp. And so you could literally, besides the fact that there's some stuff in your way, you could put in a different power supply. The other thing, there is a resistor between ground and your ESD, electrostatic discharge. So I think it would be easy enough for me to get a power supply or mod this in a way without sending Elnec more money. Or you could just buy the one that's on Elnec, obviously. The power supply that I had, let me see, do I still have it out? Yeah, the power supply I had for my Beeprog, I had bought this one, for instance, which was like 4 amps. But I had to do a different end unit there. So I could literally get the kind of the same thing you can see like how it would potentially fit if I relocated those things inside. But I think I want to try to find one that would either fit inside, for example. That would be nice. So let me assemble this and I'll be right back. All right, I did some research, and I could buy something like this that's 1.6 volts that I think will fit in here. 1.6 volts. I'll put a link to the model number that I found that I think will fit. It won't fit exactly right. These posts in here, these mounting posts or retaining posts, I guess, will probably have to be removed. But I didn't want to wait, so I just modified the one I had bought for my 864, which is a 4 amp, 15 volt power supply. Just spliced it in there, tied it in, so it's not going to get ripped out and pulled out and stuff. So let me plug this in and see if we're good to go. All right, let's see if we can fire this thing up. Hopefully I wired it up right, or else it's going to be an expensive experiment. All right, cool. That worked. Yeah, the power supply that I was looking at was like one of these. That's out of stock, but it's 1.6 volts at DigiKey. And I think one of these other ones, yeah, this Globe Tech one, $11 or $11.50, and it's 1.6 volts. I mean 1.6 amps, and the size does look like it would fit. But let's go ahead and open up our programmer. All right. All right, found the Beeprog PLS 153. Let's load. Our food fight. And let's try to program it. Well, I need a blank check now, I guess. Blank check. Yep, that works. Program. Boom. Programmed fine. So there you go. I think that's going to wrap up this video, y'all. There's my BK866B with a hacked together power supply. I just used a 15 volt 4 amp, but you probably can get by with a 1.6 amp because I believe that's what the Beeprog 2 uses, is a 1.6 amp power supply, and you could probably get it so it would fit inside there. I don't know if I'm gonna buy one or not. I might not, I'm not sure, but it's hooked up now with an external power supply and it's working correctly with more amperage. So there you go, that's it. Cheers.